Just a few months ago, I released a demo for my solo game dev project, Insectile. I've had the pleasure of watching a number of streamers play and love the demo. Also, the Steam reviews have been super encouraging. However, I think there's a huge missed opportunity here. Challenge runs. So today, I'm here to spark some ideas by attempting some challenge runs for my own game and then ranking them based on their difficulty. My hope is to encourage you to try out some more unconventional ways of playing your favorite games, or at least get you to think critically about the idea of difficulty in video games. So, let's get started. Insectile is an RPG about puzzlingly-shaped bugs. You control a party of little creatures, which are shaped like puzzle pieces, and place them on top of other creatures you find in the wild. Then, damage is dealt in the overlaps. So, the first challenge run is the scare run, where I'm only allowed to use bugs with the scare effect, and I should probably explain what scare is. I like to say Insectile is a puzzle-minded RPG rather than a puzzle RPG, and that's because puzzles are about finding solutions, whereas Insectile is about finding an optimal solution. Scare is one of the big factors in that. Scare does one of two things. It either slashes an opponent's defense in half, or it deals damage if the opponent's defense is already slashed. Tiles resolve from top left to bottom right, so placing a scary bug in the bottom right may not be optimal, because all damage comes before it. But placing the scary bug in the top left will double the rest of the damage, making it very optimal. As someone who loves Tetris but gets a little bored with the idea of chasing an arbitrary high score, contextualizing a puzzle-like mechanic like this feels way more engaging to me. That may sound like a lot, but if you were only to take away one thing, make it this. Scare changes the question from where do my pieces fit to where do my pieces fit best. So keeping that in mind, we are going to start off this challenge run by clicking New Game Plus and selecting a party consisting of one insectile, named the Crawling Olives. It's a cute caterpillar and a basic scare bug. We're gonna pop open my file and, I already see a problem. These simple little starter enemies, called squishy parsnips, exist on a 2x2 board, which wouldn't be a problem, if not for the fact that the only bug I have is bigger than that. So let's just walk around a little more, and okay, this insectile I should actually be able to beat. There's no way for me to knock out anything on the first turn, but that's probably okay. I died. I guess this is why I did not choose to use this thumbnail for the video. Take two. We were able to narrow down the board to just one insectile, another Crawling Olives. In Insectile, you have to aim your attacks around opponents and isolate the one you want to catch. I think this creates some fun tension and brings together the creature collecting and puzzle game aspects pretty well. I decided to stock up on these little guys. That's a decision that would not be so wise in a typical monster taming RPG, but it isn't all that bad in Insectile. Right as I start getting comfortable with my caterpillar army, I stumble upon a test of strength, Agar. He's our rival in insectile collecting, and he's very, bombastic?
My name is Agar, the world's greatest insectile collector. Sorry, I can't let you pass because you'll get in the way of me taming the great walking geode. Time for my super secret weapon. This insectile is my absolute favorite, and he'll blow you to bits.
Okay. Anyways, Agar was the main barrier between us and the rest of the world in the demo. Insectile's overworld, though not huge, takes a more hands-off approach at this point. This allows us to find and collect bugs at our own pace. I always appreciated this quality in open world games, so even though I don't have a massive budget to waste, I mean put towards game development, I tried to capture that feeling in the Insectile demo, albeit on a smaller scale. For a challenge run, this is awesome news. It means we have a lot of agency in what bugs we gather for the big boss at the end. Recall that I am only allowed to use bugs with the scare effect. Luckily, there are plenty of options. For the sake of time, I will not be showing how I obtained every bug I ended up using, but I do want to discuss some of my picks. Here is the team I gathered during this challenge run. One variant and one normal Crawling Olives, a citrus sipper, an apex raindrop, and two wide-eyed olive leaves. Those last two bugs in particular are really good because they not only have scare, but an opportunity to deal increased damage. Alright, now we are entering into minor spoiler territory. I think the demo is still perfectly enjoyable after seeing the boss, but if you want to play the demo with no hint of what the boss will be, please pause this video and come back after. Has everyone who wants to leave left? Cool, let's get started. The battle kicks off. There are two phases. Phase 1, I'm doing alright. The Apex Raindrops were a great pick because they are good at filling in the small gaps. Phase 1 is down, Phase 2 starts. Now the big boss himself has popped up, the Great Walking Geode. Health is looking good right now, but my little mushroom guy can get scared too, and he is, so I'm the one taking double damage now. Rather than squashing it, I'm gonna be a bit of a show-off, and I'm gonna try to tame the Great Walking Geode. Can I do it? I'm going to need to lower its health massively to increase my chances because the geode starts off with a whopping 30. Okay, looks like it's your time to shine, wide-eyed olive leaves. Watch the damage resolve. Now the moment of truth. Gotcha. And hey, 4 out of 5 stars on the boss isn't bad. So how do I rank this challenge overall? I think the beginning of this run was rough, and that's because scary bugs are mostly decent sized, whereas the boards start small. However, because scare is such a crucial element to the longer game, the strategy becomes progressively more reasonable as you get to larger and more complex encounters. Even still, the scare run requires careful planning, and I think that's what makes it so fun. Given that it's a nice step up from the challenge of the normal demo, I will rank it at a solid 7 out of 10 for difficulty. I suspect this will hold true for the full game as well, so I can't wait to get there and see. Seeing how far we already are into the video, and I have only covered one challenge run, I'm going to be a bit more brief with the next two. The second challenge run is the morph run. A mechanic I neglected to mention in the previous section was the soft silk item that can be found around the world. When given to a select few insectiles in the game, this causes them to turn into a brand new insectile with an entirely different shape and set of effects. These pieces typically have a high risk and high reward. They're big and awkward to place, that's the risk, but they also have lots of damage, that's the reward. In this challenge run, I can only use insectiles that are morphs of other insectiles, of which there are 5 options in the demo. Yeah, this run was like the scare run, but amplified. The beginning was pretty difficult, but when momentum picked up, I was getting serious damage. I think a big contributor to the early difficulty was my choice of starting bug, the pinching parsnipper. This guy morphs from the squishy parsnip, and he is huge. It was very hard to tame the insectiles I wanted because I just had to play my insectiles where they could fit and not where they were optimal. Nonetheless, I ended up with a pretty strong team. Here it is. It's actually really hard to pick an MVP because every bug plays a different role, and I think they all do it very well. The jam drops here morph from my favorite insectile, the armored jam. They have a unique ability that lets them clear obstacles, like rocks, out of the way. This makes more room for the pinching parsnipper to come in and squash enemies. The wide-eyed olive leaves have returned, and they are still dealing serious damage. They are also our only insectile with scare, so that's pretty important. Finally, we have the Blossom Raindrop, who's a bit of a glass cannon because of its unique transformation. It gets huge damage on the first turn when paired to Scare, which absolutely destroyed the Walking Geode in the boss battle. However, the Raindrop pretty much turns to dust after a single usage. Thank you, Blossom Raindrop. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. Overall, after a few hiccups in the beginning, this challenge ended up being super fun, but not that challenging. In the full game, I plan to have around 15 morphs, maybe more. That is less than a scare run will likely have. However, when you consider that morphs are usually good pieces because they require more resources to obtain, your options are by no means limited. I would have to rank this run 5 out of 10 though. I think the rules need to be tightened to really challenge an insectile expert. So that takes us to our final challenge run. When asking my Discord server about challenge run ideas for this video, they had a lot of great suggestions. Regrettably, I did not choose any of those great suggestions and instead went with the grub run by popular demand. The grub run is incredibly strict. We are only allowed to use the squishy parsnip, a single tile insectile. The good news is, smaller boards will no longer be a struggle like the previous challenges. The bad news is, every other board will be a challenge. To my surprise, there was definitely still some strategy here. This is the first time I really needed to think about healing items, for example, because my damage output is not quick enough to save my Mushroom Man from getting obliterated. On that same note, even though targeting has now become trivially easy because every piece fits everywhere, choosing which enemies to target was a little rougher. A favorite little feature of mine in Insectile is that the enemies preview their attacks. It was suggested by a tester, and it makes the game like 10 times more fun now that the player knows and can actively work to prevent potentially detrimental attacks. So I had to think critically about which enemies need to get grub rushed first in order to minimize my healing item usage. Still, phase 1 of the boss was an absolute slog. Once phase 2 started, I became scared and started taking damage way faster than I could deal it. When things started to look grim, I was able to chip damage and munch strawberries all the way to victory. There's a quote from Soren Johnson's game design journal that says, "Given the opportunity, players will optimize the fun out of a game." The parsnip run is like watching someone unoptimize the fun out of the game, and I think that's beautiful. Or terrible. Actually, while writing the script of this episode, someone in my Insectile Discord server beat the Great Walking Geode using a party consisting of absolutely 0 bugs? What? I'm told it took a lot of healing items and a lot of turns. And this does raise some important questions for me as the developer. Should crazy feats like these be possible? Are they a sign that people love experimenting in the game world, or a warning that I'm making a game that is far too easy? I've made some really difficult games in the past because I had this idea that harder levels instantly equals more accomplishment, and this makes some sense. It draws on the idea of risk and reward that is seen so often in game design. However, there was this dissonance because I've always loved making cute art. So, players would come for the art and be disappointed because they could not get far enough in the game to even see half of the backgrounds or hear half of the music that I put so much time into. So I wanted to switch it up and make a game that was a little easier to complete with Insectile, especially since I've kind of flipped the cuteness to the max here. But I did have to ask myself, how will I create a sense of accomplishment? How can the player get any sense of reward if the fear of failure becomes too small? And this is not a new problem for the RPG genre. The idea of being over-leveled for weak enemies or just stocking up on healing items can turn any fun encounter into a mindless slog. Well, I would like to talk about one more mechanic in Insectile: research. You may remember me talking about the ranking I got on the boss battle way back at the end of the scare run segment. Well, it turns out every encounter throughout the game is ranked. After squashing, or taming, every Insectile in an encounter, you get a score from 1 to 5 stars. You only need 1 star to progress. But completing an encounter with 5 stars unlocks an entry in a place called the Bestiary. A completed entry has extra flavor text about the Insectile you faced in that encounter. And completing an Insectile with 5 stars is a much harder task than completing it with 1 star. So many of the Insectiles, even in the demo, require you to squash all the bugs in just a single turn. So no, my over a dozen turn fight with the geode in the grub run will not cut it. Research is just one of the ways I create modular difficulty within the demo. Players who are extra determined can set out to complete all bestiary entries, and will need some real skill to get it done. But other players who just love the cute visuals and characters can still hop in, build a team they love, and tie up the world's story. This is neither an inventive nor flawless approach, but it addresses a big goal I have for Insectile: to develop a creature collector RPG that is easy to pick up, no large numbers, no extensive spell lists, but still very thought-provoking and rewarding of intentional strategy and puzzle solving. So, did I earn 5 stars in developing the Insectile demo? Or do I need to build up my team of bugs a little bit more? I'll let you be the judge. Hey, thank you so much for sticking with me through my first long-form video. If anything in this video sounded like a fun time to you, be sure to check out the Insectile demo today on Steam. Also, there's actually an Insectile design contest going on right now. Fans are submitting their own Insectile designs, and one lucky winner will get their design in the game, along with their name in the credits, and a free copy of the game on release. You can find the rules on any of my socials. I have a really fun time designing these little guys, so even if you're not an artist, I bet you will too. In the meantime, there are still so many possibilities for challenge runs, especially if we start tightening the rules. How about the scare run, but you must complete every bestiary entry? Or what if we did a run where only flies are allowed? Or only 2 Insectiles in your party at any time? If you have any ideas of your own that you would like to try out, I'd love to hear them in the comments. Or who knows, maybe I can make a sequel to this video when the full game releases. Oh yeah, and I guess I never did give the grub run a ranking. How about... Don't do this. Insectile is more fun than that, I swear. Out of 10.